You might have experienced your whole life that you're not a morning person, and you might even think of it as a character flaw or that you have just no discipline. But what you might have never heard before is that this can be genetic. Yes, you heard that right. This can be rooted in your DNA, and you can literally not change it no matter how many early morning hacks you try. Because researchers discovered over 350 variants that control your circadian rhythm, which is your body's natural energy pattern each day and night. This is called your energy chronotype, and it determines when you naturally want to wake up, when you're most alert, and when your energies crash. So in this video, I'll show you the science behind chronotypes, which type you might be, and why society's 9-to-5 schedule might be biologically quite difficult for you. And then I'll share a few specific strategies with you, how you can optimize your energy when you can't change your schedule. So this might be the most eye-opening 10 minutes of your life, I promise you. My own work-life success went through the roof once I started working with my own energy chronotype and no longer against it. And I do this work with all my coaching and corporate clients now. So stick with me. By the end of this video, you'll stop fighting your biology and start working with it yourself. So this probably sounds very familiar to you. You've tried going to bed earlier, but that didn't work. You still can't fall asleep. You've maybe tried just waking up earlier, which felt like absolutely torture, and you were like a zombie for the whole rest of the day almost. So you've probably been told you need more discipline, better hacks, more willpower, and that you need better habits. And my guess is this all made you feel even more rubbish. Because the reality is you can't discipline your way out of your genetics. Because your chronotype, your genetic energy pattern, is determined by what researchers call clock genes. These genes control when melatonin is released, which is your sleep hormone, and when cortisol peaks, which is your wake up hormone. It also controls when your body temperature rises and falls, and when you're most mentally sharp and when you're most creative. So a landmark study published in Nature Communications analysed nearly 700,000 people and found 351 genetic locations associated with being either a morning person or an evening person. People carrying the most morningness genes woke earlier than those with evening type genes. So this isn't preference, it is literally biology, and I'm going to show you exactly how to work with it. So let's just get a little bit more precise about chronotypes first. The Morningness Eveningness Questionnaire, short MEQ, developed by researchers Horn and Ösberg, identifies where you fall on the chronotype spectrum. There are three main types. The first type is the morning larks. That's about 15 to 20% of people. They wake up naturally around 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning without an alarm. They experience peak energy and alertness between 6 a.m. in the morning to about 12 p.m. They then start declining in the afternoon and naturally start feeling sleepy by around 9 to 10 p.m. They have genetically a high level of morning cortisol, and these are the people that early morning starts are absolutely designed for. But it's not that simple for everyone, because the second type is the night owls. So that's again 15 to 20% of people, but they cannot fall asleep before midnight, even if they try. Would never naturally wake up before 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, or even potentially later. Their peak energy and alertness only starts at about 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. and they are most creative and mentally sharp in the evening. And they tend to have a genetically delayed melatonin release. So if you're a night owl, mornings before 10 a.m. are biological torture. Your body literally isn't ready to be awake yet. And then there are the hummingbirds. So that's about 60 to 70% of people, and is often called the neutral chronotype because there is no strong morning or evening pattern. They can adapt much more easily to different schedules. So the peak energy is mid-morning to mid-afternoon, so most people are hummingbirds. But if you're a night owl trying to function in a morning lark world, you're absolutely experiencing what researchers now call social jet lag. So social jet lag is the difference between when your body wants to sleep and when society wants you to wake up. So if you're a night owl who naturally wants to wake up at 10 a.m, but your job forces you to be up at 6 a.m, you have 4 hours of social jet lag every single day. It's like living in permanent jet lag. Your body thinks it's in one time zone, but society forces you into another. And the research shows that this has serious consequences. A study in the journal Sleep found that people with social jet lag have 33% higher risk of being overweight, increased rates of depression and anxiety, reduced cognitive performance, higher cortisol, the stress hormone, throughout the day, and more reliance on caffeine and other stimulants. So you're not failing at mornings, but modern society is stacked against you. So the 9 to 5 schedule was designed for morning larks. If you're a night owl or even a hummingbird with evening tendencies, you're being forced to operate against your biology, because your most alert hours, your biological prime time, are happening when you're off work, and your least alert hours, when your body still wants to be asleep, are when you're expected to be most productive. So this is why you struggle. This is why coffee doesn't fix it. This is why willpower is not enough, because you're fighting your own DNA. Us humans evolved with these 3 chronotypes because it meant that part of our tribe was always alert enough to keep us all alive. So 100,000 years ago, you would have been keeping our tribe safe late into the night, because when the others were all exhausted and asleep, you were naturally alert. So maybe give yourself a massive pat on the back right now and no longer judge yourself. The reality is that you cannot change your chronotype. So those 350 plus genetic variants, they're fixed. You're born with them. What you can do is optimize your life around your chronotype. And if you can't change your schedule, you can use strategies to minimize the damage. So let me show you both paths and I'll guide you through each chronotype. So if you're a night owl, your sleep schedule is best if you go to bed between 12 and 1 a.m. when your body is naturally ready, and waking up between 8:30 and 9:30 when your body is naturally starting to be ready. So the total sleep would be around 8 to 9 hours at your optimal time. And then your work schedule, if possible, negotiate maybe later work hours, so starting later and finishing later. And remote work might really come to your advantage here, so structuring your deep work maybe during your peak hours, which is more in the afternoon, in the evening. If you do own your own business, maybe schedule client meetings and important work after lunchtime and right into the later evening. So your best way of optimizing around your energies is that in the morning before 10 a.m, if you do need to work, do more simpler admin tasks, emails, maybe some routine work. And then in the afternoon, evening is when you do more your creative, your complex problem solving work, and where you might be wanting to schedule those important meetings. Really late evening, that's your golden hours for focus work. So what's probably not so helpful to do is trying to fix yourself by going to bed at 9 p.m. because you'll just lie there awake anyway. So don't load important tasks into your morning as well. You're not setting yourself up for success that way. Don't compare yourself to morning larks. You're not them. If you're a hummingbird, so that neutral chronotype, your best sleep schedule is by going to bed around 10:30, 11:30 p.m. and then waking up at 7 to 8 a.m. in the morning. So again, you get about 7 to 9 hours sleep that are optimized around your natural waking and sleeping hours. So with regards to your optimized work schedule, that standard 9 to 5 works actually quite well for you because your peak productivity is between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. So maybe schedule important work during this particular window. So for you to optimize your energy, it's probably best in the morning between 7 and 10 to do a gradual warm-up, routine tasks. So then mid-morning to early afternoon, doing more of the deep work, important decisions, and then in the afternoon from around 2 to 5 p.m. is where you could schedule collaborative work, meetings, etc. But maybe avoid scheduling critical work right first thing in the morning. Give yourself an hour to come online, then you have the most flexibility. So use these kind of tips wisely to protect your peak hours. So if you are a morning lark, congratulations. Society is much more designed for you, but don't over schedule your mornings to the point of burnout. But your best sleep schedule might be by going to bed around 9 to 10 p.m. when your body naturally wants to. So be mindful not to get drawn into screen time and artificially staying awake and overriding your body clock. This will drain your battery enormously. Your natural wake up is between 5 to 6 a.m. even without an alarm sometimes if possible. So again, you get total sleep 7 to 9 hours. And in terms of you optimizing your energies, early mornings are your golden hour. So that's your absolute peak. Use this for your most important work. Then late morning is still quite strong for you, so you can do meetings, collaborative work. But in the afternoon, your energy starts to decline. So respect your natural energy decline and don't fight it artificially with caffeine if possible. But yeah, you might be asking now, but what if I'm a night owl stuck with a 6 a.m. wake up? What if I have no flexibility? So I'll share a few strategies with you to at least minimize the damage in those kind of situations. Your biggest ally when fighting your chronotype is light. So if you're a night owl to wake up early, what you could do is within 10 minutes of waking, get as much natural sunlight as quickly as possible onto your eyes. That natural light is much more powerful than even the bright lights in your home. So get outside for 10 to 15 minutes. But if it's still dark, maybe use one of those 10,000 lux light therapy boxes for 20 to 30 minutes while having breakfast or when starting with your tasks. This can make a huge difference. And why that works so well is because light is the strongest signal to your circadian system. So it suppresses melatonin production and advances your body clock. You're essentially trying to shift your chronotype earlier through external cues. And in the evening, again, light management can be really helpful. So after 7 p.m.-ish, dim all lights significantly. So only use warm toned bulbs, and you can even wear blue light blocking glasses if you're using screens. And try and avoid any bright overhead lights. This helps your body massively to produce melatonin earlier so you can fall asleep before midnight. Okay, so now for tip 2, strategic use of caffeine. I usually help my clients to remove as much caffeine from their daily habits as much as possible because it's messing with your natural sleep rhythm so much more than most people realize. But if you're a night owl forced into morning lark hours, caffeine can be a tool, not a crutch, and if used consciously and strategically. So my recommendation is, if you have to start your morning early, to wake up with your alarm, you will feel miserable, of course, but get that light exposure as quickly as possible. And then try and delay your first caffeine intake for at least an hour. 90 minutes is even better. So you have a bit of that natural cortisol spike in you, but that will have peaked by now and is now declining. So if you consume your beloved tea or coffee now, the caffeine works with your biology instead of against it. And if you really need to have another one, have this at lunchtime and latest by 2 p.m. Then stop for the rest of the day, because caffeine has a 6-hour half-life. So if you drink coffee at 2 p.m., half of it is still in your system at 8 p.m. And for a night owl trying to get sleep by midnight, this sabotages everything. So better alternatives than coffee might be also green tea, because it's got lower caffeine and it's also got L-theanine and it provides smoother energy. Mate tea is great for more sustained energy without the crash, and also matcha for a slower release of energy. So now for strategy number 3, napping for night owls. So here's a permission that you rarely get. If you're a night owl with a mismatched schedule, you need a nap. And the optimal nap time would be between 2 to 3 p.m., which is your natural circadian dip. But do that for no longer than 20 to 25 minutes, or you will start to enter deep sleep and feel even worse. So these kind of power naps restore cognitive function and mood without disrupting your nighttime sleep. So for that, you need to set an alarm though, close your eyes, and even if you don't manage to fall asleep, that deep rest for 20 minutes still helps big time. So if napping is quite difficult to do at work, maybe just find a quiet place for 10 minutes in your car or maybe an empty meeting room, and just closing your eyes and resting can already make a big difference. So now for strategy number 4, protecting your peak hours. So this is a bit of a summary of what we've said now. Even if you can't control when you wake up, you can control how you use your natural peak performance hours. So for night owls, your peak is afternoon, evening, and what you could do is scheduling your most important work during these hours. So push routine tasks to the morning when your energies are not quite there anyway. If you have control over meeting times, schedule them for the afternoon. Use your evenings for creative work, deep thinking and learning. So if you're a hummingbird, your peak is mid-morning to early afternoon. So block this time for deep work, for important meetings, and maybe batch your emails and admin for early morning or late afternoon. So the key principle behind this is to stop trying to be productive during your non-peak hours. Accept that you have a biological window of optimal performance and guard that fiercely. And then strategy number 5 now is weekend recovery. So if you're living with that chronic social jet lag, your weekends become critical for recovery. At the weekends, Friday and Saturday nights, for example, you could go to bed at your natural time, even if it's quite late and that you set no alarm. So you wake up naturally because that's your real chronotype showing itself. And then on Sunday night, you start shifting again slightly earlier by 1 or 2 hours, and then use bright light in the morning to help you shift. So don't expect to feel great Monday morning because you're re-entering that social jet lag again. But those weekends, they really matter. Like sleeping in on weekends is not laziness, it's your body trying to recover from 5 days of operating against its genetics. So you need this recovery time, protect that. Okay, so let's make this all super practical now. First, identify your chronotype. I've put a link in the description to the morningness, eveningness questionnaire. So maybe take that. It's 19 questions and will tell you where you fall on that spectrum. And then you can choose your path. So if you have schedule flexibility, you can align your sleep, your work schedule with your chronotype, and you can stop unnecessarily fighting your genetics. You can optimize your environment for your peak hours, but if you're more stuck with a fixed schedule, then you can use those 5 strategies that I said: light exposure, strategic caffeine, napping, protecting peak hours, and weekend recovery. And part of it is just accepting that you'll never feel as good as someone whose chronotype maybe matches their schedule. And that's okay too. And maybe advocate for yourself. So talk to your boss about flexible hours or remote work. Because within 2 weeks of you working with your chronotype instead of against it, you'll notice less exhaustion, your mood will improve, your thinking will be a lot clearer during your peak hours, and then you'll have also a lot less reliance on caffeine and other neuroactive stimulants. So just a quick summary now of what we've learned today. So you understand your chronotype and the genetic basis of energy patterns much better now. And if you'd like yours confirmed, take that brief quiz which I mentioned and is linked below in the description as well. Once you know which type you are, you can use the optimization strategies, whether you can change your schedule or not. And just in case you haven't watched this video yet, what you might also be dealing with is a nervous system freeze state. So that's what I've covered in a companion video. It's about the nervous system states and the activation techniques to come back online. So if your morning tiredness is both chronotype mismatch and freeze state, you definitely need both videos. So click on that video now. I'll show you the easy to understand nervous system science and some easy tips for activating your nervous system again. Or try out the guided evening meditation that goes in hand with both as well. You can find all the links below in the description. Until then, stay energized and I'll see you in the next video.